Good night and welcome to another edition of Youth Vibes. This is produced by the Democratic Labour Party for the people of Barbados, and we discuss the burning issues of the day. The focus tends to be on youth. We always have a young panel, apart from myself, of course, and we're in the middle of an election, and I don't think the panelists are going to waste this opportunity to deal with issues that arise in the election, that by election in St. James North. Let me introduce the panel to you. First of all, to my far left is a young attorney at law, Mr. Damien Fannis. Damien, give some voice, say hello. So that
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Leader, for inviting me on this show this evening. I appreciate it.
And welcome. First time we are seeing you on the show.
Yes.
Thank you very much. To Damien's right, a face that is well known. This is not only the face, but the hands that organized the last conference in 2024. Teacher and soon to be an attorney at law. And I always say he's the only Quincy Jones alive now. Quincy.
Good night, everyone.
To my immediate right, no introduction needed. This is the lady. This is the most famous lady in Barbados right now, and the most loved lady in Barbados right now, Felicia.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, everyone.
And to Felicia's immediate right, one of the outstanding, really outstanding citizens of Barbados, young citizens of Barbados, Dr. Elvis Wickham.
Good night, Barbados. Good night, St. James North.
And another outstanding young Barbadian, the president of the Democratic Labour Party, Senator Andre Worrell, who is always giving voice.
Good night, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to sit on the panel.
As always. Actually, the secret is you would notice some little thing going on here. Andre was supposed to host, but we turned up early. We were supposed to have a branch spot meeting. Mm-hmm. And actually, the reason why we're here and why that spot meeting did not take place will feature in our discussion. But tonight, we want to look at the themes, the dominant themes in this election. We in the Democratic Labour Party, you've heard us focus quite a lot on the theme morality over money. The other side has focused much on the theme of big man. Big man has several meanings, we think, but the producer has allowed us to begin with a video which will lead right into a discussion on these two themes, morality over money, and the other side's theme, which deals with the politics of the big man. Producer?
The feed is sweet. The feed is sweet. The man nice.
Thank you. Now, what you've seen there, and let me tell you a story. A few hours ago, a friend of mine called me, and what he told me left me very, very upset. I mean, you're in the middle of a campaign, and I always say to my colleagues, good news, bring good news. And if you bring bad news, let us discuss a way to fix it. Don't just give me the bad news and leave it hanging there. And my friend told me, look, y'all don't have any posters. That video would indicate to you what is happening in the constituency of St. James North. That our posters are being placed on poles, and the other side, based on that video, seems to be placing their posters over our posters. And that is not right. I mean, that's immoral. We've focused on the triumph of morality over money. And here is that theme illustrated or exemplified by the behavior of the other side. We have a moral and political right to erect our posters. And here are persons belonging to the other side using their might and power and a wicked streak, I think, in their behavior to cover our posters. So that's a good way to start this evening, with the behavior of the other side in relation to our right to erect posters, so that our supporters would not call us and say, but we are not seeing your posters. And the reason they're not seeing our posters, as you've seen in the video, that is what is happening. We don't do politics like that. So I have asked the panel this evening to examine those two themes. What do they mean to you? Let's start with ours first, of course. And a lot of people have called me and asked about this theme of morality over money. What does it mean? Does it mean that we see ourselves exclusively as moral agents who have no regard for money? No, that's not the case. We believe that money must be used in a way that is moral, that is right, that is just, and that, as Dr. Wickham would tell you, the Bible says it is the love of money that is the root of all evil. It's not money itself, because money has uses that can save lives. So that I want to turn to the panel now and ask each member of this panel, how does that theme, morality over money, appeal to you? What does it mean? How does it appeal to you? Who is going to be the opening batsman here?
All right, I will go first.
Yes.
Morality over money is something that we've spoken about a lot on the campaign. And I think that it is necessary to talk about it now, given what the country is going through. Morality, because we're in a country where we seem to focus more on money, but then a lot of our values are being left behind. We think that it is more important for the economic factors to win out, and not for the moral things to have a say in how these things are done.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a walk-up fete on a Christian holiday, that's okay. If you want to build a condominium and force out a small neighborhood, that is okay. If you want to...
That's the triumph of money.
Money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is okay, and not necessarily...
We're not saying it's okay.
No, I'm not
for them, that is okay.
That is right. For them, that is okay.
Yes.
If you want to use legislation to compulsory acquire someone's property for the purpose of another business, that for them is okay.
Yes.
And that is why it's important for us to speak out against this, because we need to come back to our moral center.
Yes.
Because at the end of it all, if you do not fuel or fix that moral center, you're not going to be able to enjoy your money, because we're facing a situation where the crime is increasing. So therefore, and there was once a perception in Barbados that the crime in Barbados is happening in certain areas. So it's not going to affect my parties. It's not going to come into my community. But even when we canvassed and we went into one of the most exclusive communities in Barbados, they said to us that they're concerned with crime. So that is why that topic of morality versus money is important.
It's important. And Andre, I love the phrase a moral center. You ready?
I'm ready.
Lovely. Damien, this theme of our theme about the triumph of morality over money. And you listen to Andre, and he talks about the moral center, this need in humankind to have a moral center. Not that you're excluding money from your daily life or your daily transactions, but that there must be that moral center in everyone's behavior.
When you speak of the moral center, especially in us intrinsically, I think about service above self.
Excellent.
Is that need to negate that intrinsic need to be compensated for anything that you do. So it's like when you see your neighbor in trouble and you go and you help them. If their house is on fire, you go and try and save as much things as possible. You then go and turn around and ask for, well,
volume a little bit.
My apologies. So you don't go and then ask to be compensated for saving your their belongings and so on. So that's, you have to ask yourself, when you want to engage in something like politics, why are you getting into politics? Are you getting into for that same service above self, or are you getting in to enrich yourself, or to enrich your family, your parties, your colleagues, your your business partners.
Yeah.
So then you have to navigate, because politics is a very attractive field to get into.
Yes.
And everybody aspires to be someone who can wield the power and decide the fate of a nation or a fate of a society and so on. But you have to really sit and navigate that how should I say, that divide between servicing people and enriching yourself, because it will come easily, especially when it comes to like when you contracts and so on like that. So you have to speak along the lines of like corruption and so on. But in regards to morality over money, we have to find individuals who are willing to sacrifice that need to be compensated for anything that they do. That you rub my back, I rub your shoulders or whatever, and you rub mine. So that's the way that I see it. We need to get back to that moral center, as Andre says, and help our neighbor first, rather than look to gain from whatever it is that you think you can do in regards to.
Thanks, David. Thanks.
The doc is rearing and ready to go.
Well, this is a topic near and dear to me.
I know.
I have long said that moral decadence will sink a country, any country, a neighborhood, a location, faster than a bad economy. And to prove my point, we need look no further than Barbados. According to the government, the economy is doing great. There's bounty, so much so that people share some of it with you. We're not wrapping it in a red shirt this time around. People share some of it with you. So the economy is doing great, according to the government. People aren't feeling that. But look at where Barbados is. Another shooting last night.
Yes. Yes.
Mugging in broad daylight of an elderly person today.
Road. Yes.
You don't know when you're going to catch a stray bullet. Persons as a country, we seem to have lost, we have lost our moral center, our moral compass. And it is sinking us. Nobody in Barbados who's over 18 years old right now can say that this is the Barbados we knew. This is the Barbados we grew up in. As a country, we've gone way down the wrong path. But the economy's great.
Elvis,
The economy's great.
on that Belmont Road matter, we don't want to go into the details too much, because it may be a pending police matter. But the old man appeared to be saying, and nobody helped me. Which relates to what you're saying to me. These things are happening and there's no help coming. There's nobody exercise moral judgment.
Some of that.
Why is that?
So we're not as caring over our fellow man as we used to be. But some of that is also a fear that the assailant may still be wrong. And if I go get involved, I don't want to become a target myself.
I see.
All right, so there is a fair degree of fear, but moral decadence is sinking Barbados. That center where we looked out for our fellow man as our first priority, where certain things are right and certain things are wrong, and that is what we taught to our children. Yes, you may have had some thought in your head of doing a little something that you probably shouldn't, but there was something back there that held you back, that caused you to think twice about, instead of just acting on impulse. We have lost that moral compass center. It's all about money. I want money. Economy is doing great. But they say, but persons having lost that moral compass, our country is now spiraling out of control. Almost every day you're hearing of another incident of bloodshed.
Yes. Let's hear what Quincy, morality over money. How does that appeal to you?
I find that we have been touching this topic quite a lot in the Democratic Party, especially in this campaign. And I had to look back at it in a deeper sense, because I realized we are living in a society where there are many decisions being driven by profit and not by principle.
Excellent.
And where the measure of success is based on the size of the contract and not the strength of the community. And where the power of choosing money over morality, and the people are left to carry the burden. So today I might be kind of a little old-fashioned in politics. I use a little old-fashioned.
The youngest person.
Yes. I believe that integrity still matters. Morality still matters, and doing what is right still matters. And
where do we get those messages from?
We get our messages from how we were raised, and we were parents, and how, and not only the parent, our community, the church, the village, church. Because when growing up, you had to go to Sunday school, and you had to understand. We also offer it, so that's the money. So much.
I used to buy ice cream blocks with it.
But you have to understand that there was still a sense of understanding that there is principle over profit.
Yes.
And by doing that, we must choose values over vanity. We must build societies where the decision is guided by what is best for the people. And it's also not about the pockets of the few.
Right.
So maybe we all have to raise our standard. We have to set, as leaders and future leaders and current leaders, need to understand that Barbados must come first with honesty, must come first with humility, and must come first with honor.
Yes.
And once we do that, we recognize that morality must come before money, because at the end of the day, no dollar sign can replace dignity, and no wealth can overweight the work of doing what is right.
You know, Quincy, listening to you takes me back to the old-fashioned village. And I don't know how you can associate with the old-fashioned village at your age. But people used to build houses. And they never paid for labor.
Okay.
On Sundays, this used to happen in Barbados. People built entire houses and got the labor from within the village for free. They just bought the materials and everybody came together and built the house.
No.
Serve.
Yeah.
I serve corned beef and biscuits and something else too. No. The hot one. The hot one. Felicia, I don't know why they kept you for last. They wanted you to rest. You're in the middle of an election campaign. But I know that theme is a theme that has much appeal with you. I've listened to all of your speeches. Morality over money. Talk to us, please.
I think we have
The ego.
a government that is more utilitarian in its approach.
Mhm.
It is utilitarian because it primarily seeks its moral value on the consequences of its act
Mhm.
and how it benefits from that. It doesn't consider,
Popularity,
it doesn't,
popularity and so on.
it doesn't distinguish between whether my actions are right or wrong, but how well does it benefit me? And I think that's a dangerous precedence that we're setting. When you see a campaign is being done where posters are being used as a symbol of dominance, as a symbol of intimidation, it is something that we have to wake up and realize the dangerous precedents that we've set in this society. It also sends a signal to the youth in this society that this is how we interact with each other. That if you do not like the way that things are going for yourself, you should act with might and as forceful as you can to send a very strong message. And so it's very symbolic as to what is happening in this election. And I would like the constituents and the wider community, the Barbadian community, to look at and recognize that we are heading to a dangerous path and journey by what we are representing in this by-election. What we have seen, it starts like that as a form of intimidation, and it can emerge into violent. And I saw what happened last night when we were having the meeting and a bus or truck went through and they were heckling.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this is something that is emerging in politics in Barbados that we need to consider it very seriously. We do not want it to transcend in any other way.
Right.
So when we think about morality, everyone may have different views of what morality is. And as a morality theorist myself, I would say, well, we are more deontological because we understand the clear lines between right and wrong. But we have a government that chooses when right is right and wrong is wrong. And so they determine that by how much they can gain from it. And so they would say now, even they would say that we need the church to help the youth. But at the same voice, a few days later, you're seeing what they're doing in posters, you're seeing what they're doing. So it's very hypocritical, but this is the moral tenet that they're going with. And I think it's, as I said before, it's very utilitarian because it's about utility. What can I gain from my actions and not really what is right or wrong? I believe every child, most children understand that telling lies is wrong. They know that. They know caring is sharing. We teach those moral virtues very early. So when you see persons within leadership positions, because I believe now, even in the by-election, all the candidates that are participating are leaders within their own right. And this is what the constituents are looking for. What type of leadership would I want to embrace? Do I want to embrace a leader that seeks to dominate their ideas and their beliefs and their ways of things? And if you do not follow that, then they intend to dominate and intimidate. And so when you see these kinds of incidents of violence towards the elderly, or you see violence from the state imposing taxes, unnecessary, undue taxes on its citizens, then we understand the government that we're dealing with. The violence is very subtle, but it is there because they're sending a very strong message that we are in charge, and if you do not fall in line, you will suffer the consequences in every form. And so when we see people not intervene, it's because of the fear. We do not know. It can start with flyers on somebody's posters, and we do not know what the extent could be. As I said before, it's a very dangerous precedent that we're sending, and I'm quite concerned that no one from their campaign team has come out to condone that kind of behavior, because it seems that it is acceptable. It is part of the mantra that this is what we do and this is how we will do it, because we either we go big or we go home. And that's the kind of message that they're sending. And I want my constituents to be very vigilant of the kinds of leadership that we want to promote in this society. And I think that is what I'd have to say on that.
Thank you very much. Look, Felicia, you mentioned go big or go home. I heard it for the first time today. I was hearing their song or their chant, whatever it is. And I was appalled that they would say go big or go home. And that fits in with your theme of violence.
Yes.
So that your answer leads right into us now contrasting our principle of morality over money against their principle, this big man thing. And Felicia, you led so nicely into it. And you made reference to what they did last night, that we are holding our meeting, and this truck drives through the meeting, and two people in red shirts on the back. I didn't hear them, but they were chanting.
Yeah.
In fact, I was speaking at the time, and I stopped and I said, let them pass. And I don't think it is a road that they needed to use.
No.
But you're speaking of this propensity for violence, sometimes subtle, but it is there all the same. And this fits in with this big man slogan. What does this big man thing be to you? You mentioned violence, you mentioned the issue of domination. You want to dominate.
Intimidate.
And intimidate. And it is the message that you're sending to young people in the constituency.
What it actually,
big man image.
what it actually also does, it shows the abuse of power.
Yes.
Because we're not dealing with someone like myself, an average citizen, that does not, or any citizen in the constituency. We have farmers, we have single mothers, we have youth, we have children. We do not have the power that the government have. And this is a government that is in power. They're governing. They're a regime as far as I'm concerned. So as ordinary citizens, we are there and we're just trying to do the best we can with the little that we have and trying to survive. And then you have a government that is in power, that is in government itself, and coming to impose an excessive form of power, to tell us, like, look at us, we're the ones in charge, but we know that you're in charge. You're not opposition, you're in government. So that exertions of power that this is who I am. And I think that Barbadians have to look very deeply about that, because if we continue in that path, it's very tyrannical as well. It's a tyrannical kind of behavior that I have that kind of power and I can do whatever I want to do with you.
Yes.
And if you say too much, or if you even try to speak up, then I can impose abusive laws on you that will restrict your freedom, that will restrict the way that you interact within your society, within your family members, within the community. And as I said before, it's a dangerous precedence that we head into.
Yes.
No, the incident last night contrasts to when we were in the community canvassing and they haven't had an event going on. We quietly walked past and did not disturb their event.
We can call the name of the neighborhood.
When we were in
Baker's Woods.
and they had an event.
They had an
there.
event, a meet and greet. Not a lot of people from the neighborhood.
Right, because our people outnumbered who was actually gathered here. And we were in the neighborhood canvassing and going to houses to visit people, which was very close to their meeting. We actually had to use that road.
Yes.
It wasn't a situation where we had an alternate road to use. And all of our people just quietly walked and went along to do our business.
At the houses, and a lot of people were at home.
Exactly.
And those people they wanted at their event. But we saw a lot of red shirts and ministers.
Right. And the people had determined that they were not going
Precisely.
because when our forward campuses went, they told us to make sure that Felicia comes
To their
their
home.
house. So they knew that they were not
Yes.
going to the event.
Yes.
And I would also want to say that their whole campaign, when you hear their platform speeches, it's about intimidation and
Intimidation.
insults.
Big man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Intimidation and insult. They insult me.
Yeah.
So people believe that I only go to the Senate for lunch and to eat. Whatever the case.
We have to learn to laugh, you know. Right? You have a good
But
sense
you know,
of humor.
the thing is about it, right? And this is my philosophy.
Mhm.
My partner don't bubble up then.
Good.
So I really don't give a damn. When I have to say anything against them, I will say it.
Andre, I think they want you to read with those sharp eyes of yours.
Right. All right, well, it might be easier for
Oh, yeah.
CD says, go big or go home, rings similar to what you hear the bad boys say.
Yeah.
Get rich or die trying.
Yes.
Both are cynical, immoral, and dangerous.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm going to come to the other side of the panel. And listening to Andre and Felicia, I was there thinking, Mike is right. That's their view. Mike is right. The big man politics.
Hey,
Who goes first? Quincy or maybe you go?
I will go. Yeah. We have been hearing this big man politics. And I think there are too big men in politics right now, and not enough men and women who are serving the people.
Yeah, sure.
I think that big man don't hide from the people that they're supposed to serve.
What does big man mean? How does it appeal to you? This concept of big man.
I think it's all about egotistic,
Yes.
power hungry, voiceless, and all about serving personal gain and not national interests.
Yes.
A lot of us are surviving in this economic times where families are in hardship, where they have to decide on the bills that they have to pay. And if they get the $300 where they have to allocate to, if they have to get the money that they claim they're giving. And it is not about giving, making sure that the friends of the friends and the families of the family are all taken care of. And they're not serving with humility. They're not fighting for those without the voice. They're not sacrificing their personal gain for national gain. So we don't need another big man in parliament. We need someone brave enough to speak the truth.
And when you say big man, you're not talking about physical.
I'm not talking about physical image. We're
Yeah.
talking about egotistic. We're talking about character.
Right.
And talking about service of the people.
Yes.
Because even though people want to take it out of context, the real context is about serving the people.
Yes.
And especially in this by election, the Felicia, I give you all my support.
Thank you.
All my support.
Thank you.
You know, the Joneses like the
Yeah. And the other Jones, he wrote a beautiful tribute
yes,
to
beautiful.
Felicia
Yes.
a couple of days ago. Let's say hello to Ronald Jones.
So so we got to recognize that honesty enough that we have to say no to corruption. We have to stand strong enough to put the people first in every single thing we do, in every policy we make, in every idea we have, in every morality we do, in going forward as a government in waiting. So when we go to vote on the date of the 21st, remember that you don't go voting for ego, you don't go voting for power, but you go voting for the interests of people in terms of service. You go voting for helping the communities, and that is what we should be focusing on, and not just the word itself, but the actual character of what this election should be about.
Yeah. Now, this language, go big or go home. How does that strike you? And that comes from their sound. I think it's a chant that they do, go big or go home, go big or go home. In other words, if you're not identifying with
Damn.
big, with power, with might, leave. Sounds violent to me. How does that feel to you, Doc?
It does. Somewhat unsettled by it. By the definition of big, not referring to physical size, but the idea of might and power.
Correct.
And we can show you, I mean, look at what we can do.
Yes.
You know, look at what we can do. It reminds me almost of old big great Babylon. Look at what I have built, what I've been able to accomplish by my might, by my power. You know, it's that certainly does not refer to the majority of Barbadians. So what are you saying about the majority of Barbadians?
Yes.
The majority. What are you saying
do not
about
fit
the
into this
majority
idea of
who
big?
do not fit into that mold?
Yes.
Who do not have birthright entitlement
Yes.
to run in a particular seat? Because you know they also like to talk about pedigree and birthright entitlement, and we the loyal subjects of the country, or we're just supposed to go and vote and support. But unless you can go big, unless you have that pedigree, unless you have that lineage, that
Go home.
bloodline, go home.
Go home. Yes.
You're not worthy to ascend the steps of parliament.
Yes. You know,
We're not even a joke. I realize that big men don't go asking for loans and contracts, but they deal with the average citizens in terms of the struggles of the groceries. The men don't add on taxes on gas and different taxes on sewage, but they make sure that they take off and give the labor of love. But you know, amen.
you know, the doc just mentioned this issue of pedigree. And I was so appalled, Damien, when I heard today, I heard the other side say that he went to a lady and they had a discussion on Bertha Hines' grandson. She was so pleased to hear that I was Bertha Hines' grandson. Bertha Hines was the former Speaker of the House back in 76, I think. And again, as the doc says, this question of entitlement, not based on merit, but based on your background.
It gives the voice of a dictatorship.
Yes.
Like we will find in a regime with a central figure, and his agenda is the only agenda, right? And those type of people tend to, going back to the covering of the posters, those type of people tend to silence their opposition. They try to hide them, in a sense, and persecute them. So then when you see things like something as similar, as small as just covering a poster, they're trying to cover up your political voice. They're trying to hide it. Everything that resonates with you or that would elicit a response from that poster, something that would have caught the attention of someone who's willing to give us an ear. That person doesn't see that anymore. They assume so. There are no posters in the constituency, so I guess that we're not serious.
Go home.
Go home.
Go home.
You get me? So
They don't exist.
Don't exist. So when you hear things like go big and go home, it's
Or
either
go big or go home. Yeah.
Go
So
big.
if you're not big,
If you're not big enough,
if you don't identify with might and power.
if you're not big enough to hang in this fight, then just go away.
Yes.
Disappear. Have nothing to say. Your voice is not welcome here, and no one wants to hear you here. So that's what strikes the chord with me when I see stuff like that.
Yes. So we need to be telling Barbadians that is the subtle message that is coming from the other side, the Barbados Labour Party, when they say go big or go home. That it involves dominance, it involves intimidation, and if you can't be a part of what they consider might and power, this is no place for you.
Some people lavish.
And I want people to
Also-
understand as well. Sorry to cut you.
No problem.
No, that's fine.
I want people to understand as well that a country is at its strongest when it has an opposition. Because when you have one voice, one agenda, there's nobody to come and say, well, I don't agree with this, or this can be done better, or maybe you should look into this before you come and you just make your decisions without anybody to come and criticize or critique, or to even say, well, look here rather than look there. We can only be stronger if we have both sides with the equal opportunity to speak on the society issues and to have a discourse on where we should go rather than drown out the other voice and say, well, we run things. We run things around here, so we don't want you.
Felicia, Damien just mentioned opposition. And we really are trying to persuade the people of St. James North that you should become that second voice in the opposition next week. What I'm noticing, and I thank Damien for introducing it, this intolerance to opposition. And we need to tell the people of Barbados that an opposition is there as a check on government's power. Yeah,
It is.
that government is exercising mighty power, mighty political power. You see it every day. And your views on the importance of an opposition, we need to be telling the people why it is important to have Felicia Dujon in the parliament after next week's election as an opposition member?
I think it's important because we've seen the caliber of persons that we've dealt with in this government. They're not individuals that you can trust. They say one thing, then in the night, the darkest of night, they would turn around and do something totally opposite from it. We've seen the kinds of legislation they have attempted to pass when it comes to the infringement of rights of citizens. And I believe that with having that kind of majority, it's very dangerous. It's dangerous for the populace. It's dangerous for the national security of this country. Because when you have one group of persons, and I do not want to say that there are 28 persons, there are actually one person that dominates every thought and decision.
Yes.
And that's what's dangerous about it. Because that person does not give ear to any alternative view. And if you have a different account of what you perceive as the best interest of the populace, the best interest of citizens, then you fire, then you ostracize, then you criticize, and everything else comes with that. And so it's very important that Barbadians understand that perhaps in a different reality we could have, but the caliber of people and individuals that we're dealing with right now, there is no chance of us having an equal, fair chance as citizens in this country. The government has been encroaching on the rights of citizens, and they do it deliberately. So it's not only that they're telling you, well, I can do that, but they're showing you that I can do it. I can pass a bill that restricts you. I can pass a bill that censors you. I can pass taxes that can infringe on your basic humanity. And so all of those kinds of cases, I think it's very important that having another voice in parliament allows the public's voice to be heard, because this is what we do as opposition, is to speak on behalf of citizens. And I believe that this election, one of the things about this election in particular, is that it does not make a difference for the Barbados Labour Party. We heard the Prime Minister last night. She said their opponent will still have his job on Wednesday. By Wednesday, he'll have his job. He will still be the Minister of Education Transformation. So it doesn't make a difference for them whether you vote in this election. But what it will do for you as citizens when you vote for me is that you get a voice to speak on your behalf, a voice that will not be manipulated to be such a way that I don't have to be fearful or intimidated to speak on your behalf or advocate on your behalf. Because as you've seen my work, I have continuously challenged this government on the kinds of issues that they have raised. Your future primarily not only depends on this voice, but also for your children. Because we've seen how this government have treated children and children's rights. And they speak about that, parental rights. We've seen what they have done. And what is very frightening about it is that we do not know what else is to come. And that I think that's what is very important. And this is why this election is critical. And I believe that everyone, whether they tell us to go home or not, I think you should come out from home and go out and vote.
Yes. And let us remind our viewers that next week's election is a by-election. It's not a general election. And it is about, from our perspective, it is about strengthening the opposition. And the opposition is there to oppose government and to oppose government constructively. So that at this juncture, it is not about advancing proposals as if it were a general election. We are reserving the right to expose this government, expose the ills in this government's life, in this government's practices, and tell the people of Barbados not only why they should vote for Felicia Dujon next week, but why they should vote against the government next week. So we want to examine this government and all the ills in this government and demonstrate to the people of St. James North what are the ills in this government, what are the weaknesses in this government, why this government is an unjust government. And let us discuss that for the time being. You mentioned the question of one-person government. And that's a serious problem in Barbados. One-person government. That is what we have to remind Barbadians of, that here is the specter of dictatorship, as Oinatha said, and he knows the person.
As the leader also said without realizing, on December 27th, 2021, when election was called, the last general election, part of the rationale given then was that we need to unite behind.
One person.
Those were my words.
Mhm.
We need to unite behind one leader.
Yes.
That there are difficult decisions to be made,
Yes. Yes.
and that one leader,
And look at what we have for that unity behind one.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a government of one, a party of one.
And
The
a
idea,
society that's falling apart.
clearly,
Yes.
the idea that only one person or one set of individuals know the best approach.
Well, remember the
Everybody's got-
statement, Elvis, give me the vote and watch me.
And watch me. And we
Yeah.
have watched
And all big
all
works
big works pass
must come
through
through me.
me.
One person.
So it's all about
one person.
one.
Yes.
One.
yes, yes,
The other
yes.
27.
It
Oops.
don't matter.
When principles don't align,
Precisely. You resign.
you resign.
Senator Christopher.
Look, let's talk about Crystal Haynes. This is hard politics, as I said last week. Why is Crystal Haynes no longer in the Senate of Barbados? So let's not speak in vague terms in here today. Why is Crystal Haynes not in the Senate? Let's remind Barbadians of the quality of government we have. That Crystal Haynes is now absent. Andre?
They cannot take criticism, especially coming from their own, which is unfortunate because even within a government, you must be willing to accept a dissenting view.
Mhm.
You have that in the appeal court,
Mhm.
where a judge is allowed to give a dissenting view, and something that would help to get a country back on track
Mhm.
or get a government back on track.
Mhm.
And it is shameful because she spoke out from a position that she thought it was necessary,
A principal position.
principal position,
Mhm.
because she is from the area. She has a business in the area as well.
Mhm.
So she knows how residents within that area feel about it, and that Barbadians also feel that you're losing a window to the sea, especially along that coast. So she took it and she spoke out. When I heard her in the Senate that day,
Mhm.
I was actually quite proud of her for actually taking that stand. And I think a mature government
Mhm.
could have accepted
Yes.
her view
Yes.
and embraced what she said, but they did not have to remove her.
Mhm.
I did
from-
not think it was extreme, her statement.
It
No.
wasn't that extreme.
Neither was it subversive of the government. I didn't think so. But clearly, if you slightly offend, if you deviate slightly from that center,
We can't let people get away with the idea that their opinion matters.
precisely,
So a message needs to be sent.
needs to be sent.
Fall in line.
The Haynes departure, the Haynes firing. How did that touch you?
I was actually very disturbed by it because it feels as if, like, if you challenge the status quo, you will be punished.
Mhm.
And that is not the way we need to, that is not how democracy is upheld.
Mhm.
Especially if, like, you would expect people to toe the party lines, but then still they should be allowed to speak their criticisms or have their concerns heard,
Mhm.
and not feel like if there's going to be some form of retribution because you don't toe a particular line that the leader or leader's agenda speaks to on that particular day. So when I actually saw it, I was actually at a loss for words in regards to, just because she's a very intelligent woman.
Mhm.
She's very intelligent, well spoken, and she has an idea of the issues that she speaks of.
Yeah.
And so all I can tell you that it troubled me
Mhm.
because it made me wonder what is going on with the democracy in Barbados. Has democracy fallen? Is there no democracy in regards to, even if there is no opposition, can no one inside the party itself, the ruling party, say something out of turn and go in a different direction politically? And it just rubbed me the wrong way.
Quincy, not only was Dr. Haynes dismissed, but we have an election going on, and by election, we had 10 ministers at one small meeting. Not only has she been dismissed, but she's disappeared from the politics of Barbados. In the aftermath of one speech, you're dismissed, and you disappear from the political landscape. But what is this telling you?
It's saying that there's a moment of truth in democracy in Barbados, or what's going on now in Barbados.
Mhm.
And today, we are called not just to be represented, we need to reaffirm our right to choose the difference between right and wrong. I recognize that democracy now has fallen, and because of what Crystal did and start for her right, that is democracy, because democracy is about the voice, it's about making sure that power and about people, and making sure that communities that have issues can come to the government and ask for help. To me, it was bigger than just Crystal for me. It was showing to all Barbadians. And if you have issues with your bills and it's not aligned with me, do not talk, or we will cast you or go home.
Yes. Yeah.
Sounds like a monarch.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, this is a nice collective time, we could do though. But
No.
it just shows that the government has to play a more important role in listening to the people. And if you cannot even speak in the Senate, then students can't even speak in the classroom. And then if students can't speak in the classroom, then senior citizens can't even speak about their pain. And this is a much bigger issue than what Crystal represents. But for me, it was like, it is a whole break of the democracy spirit of Barbados, or what we know Barbados to be, based on accountability, based on integrity, and based on everything. It's now becoming a survival of the fittest. And hence, youth are tired with the politics. Barbadians are fed up and frustrated with politics. And because of all of the frustration and the gimmies and the tricks and the politicking that's happening now, we recognize that there's now a big difference between the widening the gap between the power and the powerless. Young people have to now look for ways of survival of the fittest. And because of that, we have to look at ourselves and reflect. And even as a party going forward, we have to say to ourselves, how can we correct this wrong? And how far has it gone on? Can we really get further? Because it triggers in everything. What Crystal did, it triggers now in crime. It triggers now in family households. It triggers in our in food supplies, because democracy is important. Democracy brings accountability, and we have to listen. And if we can't listen and are cast away, then we have to really ask ourselves, are we supposed to be government? Are we really representing the people?
Now, Dr. Haynes spoke out, or she spoke in relation to a property in Old Town. And we had raised some questions in Parliament. I had raised some questions about the transaction. And I got certain answers, but apparently those answers did not tell the entire truth. And we've discovered in the aftermath that the transaction, again, was about the wealthy, the mighty, enfranchising the wealthy people in who are around here. And we come back to this question of the government's association with the wealthy. Any comment? And if you were
And I think we should.
So
I think
wealthy,
we have
you're
to
doing
do
it
that.
at the expense of
Yeah,
those who are not wealthy.
and I think we need to. And while my comrade was speaking so eloquently, as usual, it brings back the idea of the tyranny of the majority, which was used by Hart, that when you have a group of persons with that kind of power, the kinds of dominance, and we have to be very careful with that tyranny of the majority, because they're the majority at this moment. And what we need to do as a party is really to continue the work that we have done for over 70 years, is to ensure that the rights of the average Barbadian is not infringed upon, to ensure that we align ourselves on principle and not popularity, to ensure that whatever work that we do it with pride and content, because we're happy to serve the average Barbadian. And the average Barbadian is people that work hard just like us and not willing to be in a place where they dominate the environment, where they dominate everything else, so that people are too intimidated to speak up. What I can tell you from my canvassing in the constituency is that people got to the sense, I mean, after a party has been in the constituency for over 35 years, they felt a sense of hopelessness that we, this is what we have and this is what we get. And so the reality is that we have to work with them. We have to show them that as Barbadians, you deserve better. And that no one should continue to treat you the way that you do. That kind of bondage should no longer exist. That we have to show them that our foreparents and the Democratic Labour Party has done too much in this country to allow one individual to come in and destroy that entire legacy. And so this is what we have to do. We have to touch the hearts and souls of Barbadians, touch the hearts and souls of people in St. James North to remind them of who they are.
Yes.
That this is who you are. This is not what somebody tells you, go big or go. No, this is not who we are. This is a false perception, a false illusion that we've given persons to believe that this is what makes you who you are, that you must be wealthy. No. Most of us grew up, we didn't grow up wealthy. We didn't have the best of the best, but we had strong parental roles. We had strong members of the community. We had strong elders in the community that guided our moral beliefs, our moral tenets to get us where we are today. It wasn't about money or popularity. It was about our humility, our spirituality, and the goodness that we saw in everyone. I think this is what we need to do. We need to change the hands that has dominated over St. James North and do it with strength and vigor, that we're going to go out there and give people the hope that is needed so that we can transform them the community in and of itself, the way that it should.
Felicia, I like how you put it. You're almost saying that it is not so much that you're there to protect the wealthy, but that you're there to make everyone feel worthy.
Yes, and that comes from an elder in the constituency when I met him.
Yes.
He was 84. He said, we have to stand up for the poor.
Yes.
And it's not that we want to discriminate between rich and poor, but the inequalities is what is happening. It's too far removed. It's too far removed. The inequalities of wealth distribution in that community. When you find people in that same constituency where you have villas being built and people are being entrapped in their own homes or in prison in their own homes. And when you look at people as, the wealthy, and there's nothing wrong with wealth, nothing wrong. But when it is at the expense of another, that becomes the moral tenant. How do you make moral decisions based upon that? And I think that is what is important, because when I look at the constituency, and we're speaking about all of that wealth, tourism and everything, and all these expensive villas, and then you see a community center in such a state, it tells you that this community center is symbolic of how the government and everyone that has facilitated that environment, how they view the average Barbadian. And I think that is what propels me, that we need to fight, and we need to continue fighting stronger for them.
Elvis, this question of, or you were going to the board? That's Patricia Calendar, is it? Patricia Calendar. You can read that, Elvis. You wanted us to read it, producer? Yes, Elvis.
Patricia Calendar, Mr. Panelists?
Yes.
Do you think the young people really understand what this government is doing? Do you think the young people really understand what this government is doing?
So when
how old are you, young Panelists?
I'm not even that young. I'm not even that young.
Somebody thinks you're very, very young. So
What
whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
What I can tell you though is that I ask myself, when the youth look inward and then look out into Barbadian society, do they see enough avenues for them to walk down a path of economic prosperity? Are there enough opportunities for them? Are there enough safety nets for them? I would like to digress a little bit and tell a little story about myself.
Yeah.
Now, when people ask me what I do and I tell them I'm an attorney at law, they automatically assume that I went down the traditional path of
And that you're rich.
either rich or very smart. I got scholarships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But people would assume that I probably passed for one of the more prestigious schools. That's how they used to call them. I got my CXCs, probably did sixth form, BCC, went to UE,
Traditional route.
the traditional route. That was not my route. My route was far from traditional. I was actually what they said, kicked out of school with no CXCs at all. But in between me trying to find myself, because I did love sports, I was an athlete.
What even?
Well,
400, I guess.
2 and 4.
Yeah, you look at 2 and 4.
Right? I wanted to achieve an athletic scholarship, so I had to go and work. Started my first job was at Harris Spence. So I used to go to Harris Spence, work, go to training.
At the mini stadium?
That
Ignore that.
was when it was the Freedom Striders. Rest in peace, Mr. Lovell. And it was hard. It was very, very, very hard because working and then training and then competing, it was very, very, very hard. But I was offered an opportunity to join the Barbados Defense Force Sports Program.
Oh, you came through that.
I came through that, right? I remember,
Disbanded as it is now.
yeah, disbanded as it
This
is now.
government.
And I want people to
Yeah.
understand that the Barbados Defense Force Sports Program made me into the man that I am
Oh,
today.
beautiful.
I got
John,
my-
you know best in saying that.
I was there with
Yeah.
Tino Best.
Yes, you were there with Tino.
I was there with
And
Tino.
Tino played cricket for the West Indies.
Yes, he did. I got my first qualification in the Barbados Defense Force.
And you speak highly of it.
Very highly.
And this government has done what with it?
They disbanded it. Broke my heart. I got my first CXC in the Barbados Defense Force. The Barbados Defense Force opened up an avenue for me to get a scholarship.
I said hello to Tino.
Tino, what's happening, man? Long time no see. Right? It opened up an avenue for me to get a scholarship to the BCC to do physical education. And from then on, went into teaching and then transitioned into law. But if I was not given that opportunity, that safety net,
Yes.
that
Yes.
safety net to catch me,
Yeah.
I probably might be God knows where. So then I asked myself, do the youth see that there are no opportunities for them? Do our youth aspire to be like the next Rihanna or the next Oba or the next Sade? Do they see opportunities in academia, in arts, in
Do they?
entertainment?
Do they?
Do they? Because it feels as if we're losing the war for their hearts and their minds. And then when they fall through the cracks, somebody else snatches them up and puts a weapon in their hand and tell them, go and do this job for me. You can make a little money. You can make more money than you're making anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I think that this government has not done enough for the youth. They disbanded something that, to me, I hold dearly.
Why did they disband it?
So they can travel.
I have.
I mean, they gave any explanation or it just happened quietly?
It seems to me that it happened quietly because I could not find the rationale in disbanding something that takes youth off the street, puts them in a disciplined environment, gives them the opportunity to go to school. You understand me? And then make them contributing, law-abiding citizens to society. I don't understand why you would disband something that was so beneficial.
And there was a point in time the BDF team at the highest level was one of the better teams.
One of the better teams.
And it graduated the cricketers into West Indies cricket.
Yes, it did. I remember the Barbados footballers, the Defense Force footballers went all the way to CUSA. They went to, not CUSA, it was the CISA games, I believe. I can't remember the
Where
exact.
was that?
It was I think it was in Europe at the time.
Really?
Yeah, and they had actually qualified. It was the military games, and our footballers went up there and they're impressed, right? We had athletes that made national teams and brought records and stuff like that. We had people that even though that, like for me, I wasn't the best athlete, right? I wasn't the best, but I took my academics seriously. And I believe that if you didn't succeed in your sport, succeed with the books.
I hear you.
And I chose the books.
Yeah.
Right. They gave me an opportunity and I took it.
What was the average age? At what age did you join this program? So that we know. Because we have to bring it back.
Yeah, we have
On a
to.
larger scale too.
We should.
I joined the program in my early 20s, probably about 21. I joined because
So you catch the athletes at their peak.
You catch them at their peak, you train them, you give them the right amount of competition and training so that they can develop, progress along, and you try to help them balance the books as well, because they had opportunities for us to get CXCs in there, like Maths, English, and IT. That was provided in there itself. And then if you wanted to study outside, you just made an application to your superior, and then you go through the orders and stuff, the interviews, and they let you go on the outside. They ask you how you're funding it. Do you need help? or you can fund it yourself, but they just want to know when, where, and go up there and make sure you bring it back.
Do you live in?
You don't technically live in, because my schedule was like, we get the training at the stadium where Watts was
Yeah.
the stadium, right? You get the stadium for say 7, you do your warm-ups, you train,
Yeah.
transport comes back for you, takes you inside the Barbados Defense Force, you do what you had to do, your duties, you go to class, right? You go to class or you leave to go somewhere else to class, you go to lunch, you probably get some rest in the afternoon, and then prepare for training in the evening, we go back to the stadium. That was the boxers and the athletes routine.
Yes. How long does the program last? How long did the program last? Years? 2, 3?
Well, it depends on, I guess, how long your journey took in there. If you
So it was flexible.
it was flexible because I had a 3-year contract, and then if they wanted to renew,
Contract.
yeah, it was a contract.
You were paid?
You were given a stipend.
Excellent.
You were given a stipend,
And then
right?
you-
So you were given the 3-year duration, and then if you wanted to renew, based on, I guess, your performance, your behavior.
So you were living the life of a professional.
You were a professional athlete, a
Yeah.
semi-professional athlete.
Semi-professional, yes.
You were a semi-professional
Yeah.
athlete, because then that taught you too that when you actually, if you got a scholarship overseas, you already how to act, how to manage your money,
Yes.
how to manage your time in terms of studies and so on. So it gave you a foundation on how to go into the world and represent yourself and the nation.
Excellent. So I'm going to come to you shortly, Doc. I'm very interested in this testimony.
Yes.
So that outside of national cricket, the BDS sports program was the only professional endeavor, the professional environment in Barbados, insofar as sports was concerned.
Yeah, for a very, very long
For a
time.
very long time. Doc, I'm coming to you. Creating worthy citizens. I think Felicia mentioned it. Not only focusing on wealth, as this government tends to, but focusing on worth in citizenship. What's your view on this? Damien is telling us about a BDF program that creates worthy citizens, and that is closed.
Yes.
And the government is focusing on wealthy citizens. You were about to tell us something.
Yes. When I heard that the BDF program, sports program, was closed, I mean, I was never part of it myself, but I could clearly see its value, its worth, its benefit. And you did that at a time when clearly, morally, in terms of what was happening in society, behavior, the issues of our youth, that was clearly on the decline. It didn't make sense. And here you had a disciplined, structured environment that could certainly have helped to capture many of our younger persons and help to steer them on a different path. As far as raising or developing our youth to become productive, contributing members to society, indeed it does start at home. But we know for various reasons things at home don't always work out how they should, and this is where government comes in. And you have a program. You actually had, even if you wanted to modify, adjust. In fact, you should have meant to make it bigger.
Yes.
Bigger.
Yes,
Not close it.
Precisely.
Not shut it down.
Precisely.
Right? You should have looked to make it bigger, and because here you would have been able to in a very disciplined environment, and clearly that is what is lacking in society today.
Correct.
You would have been able to impart significant, enhancing values into our youth that would have then been able to help them to be. I mean, look at Damien contributing members to society. Why close that down? Oh, right, you're not getting any money from it. I don't get what greater investment could you have made in the lives of young people. I mean, I learned more tonight about it than I knew before hearing Damien speak. So it very, very sad, unfortunate. And I definitely don't think enough is being done in that regard in terms of developing our youth holistically, because what Damien spoke of is a holistic approach.
Yeah.
You're not just throwing money at a problem and hoping that a solution comes out at the other end. That is not how life works.
I'm going to bowl
Where
a
you
long
throw
hop
money
at
at
you.
everything.
I'm going to bowl a long hop at you. In the event that you're a cricket man, would a new government return that program?
They should.
They should.
Absolutely should.
Felicia.
And look at how you can enhance, improve,
Yes.
increase.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think you should. And I think that's something that is fundamentally different with the Democratic Labour Party, because we think about how education can empower people.
Human development.
Social structure, all of these matter to citizens. It matters to the youth. And I think while our comrade is speaking here, I understood that we were all young at that point. And it reminds me when we left high school and what was the transition period. And I think this is something that we do not speak about, that we allow our young persons to go for the education system, whatever it is, high school, secondary school, and some would go to university, some would go to BBC and the Polytechnic, but there is a transition point that they need that kind of guidance. The opportunities can be in various ways, and we do not have that. I think this is where the breakdown happens, where there's a period between leaving high school and entering to the work field. And I think this is where mentoring programs should work, and mentoring, because that's all what part of what it does. It provides that mentoring for our young men and women to show them exactly how do you become an attorney? How do you become a carpenter? How do you become a farmer? You need someone to tell you, and I think that is what we have at school, where we have the correct counselors. They tell them. But I think it's very important that we train persons, we walk them through it, because young people, they need the guidance. They're very educated, they're very hands-off, but also they need guidance, because it's a journey that we're going on. It's not like we've been here before. Not us, well, we would know. We haven't come to this life before. So when we come to this life, we need people that have already been through that journey to provide us with the guidance. And I think this is where mentoring plays a very strong role in the lives of young persons. And so this is what we should do as a government, an incoming government, provide those mentoring programs in the school system. When we talk about education transformation, this is what we mean. You're looking to transform the lives of persons, not to remove an entire education system, but provide the guidance so our persons know, if I want to become an attorney, this is what, and if I happen not to get the qualifications that I need, that I still know that there is guidance. And this is where the elders in our societies comes in as well. The retired teachers, retired attorneys, retired farmers, whoever that they are, that they come in and provide that guidance, because what our youth are looking for is the guidance. Some of them cannot see what is out there. And for some of them, it could be very scary because they do not know what is out there. And as I said before, I just remember myself. It takes us a while to get where we need to go. We just finished high school. What are you going to do with yourself? You don't have the experience that the workplace is looking for. You need 5 years of experience, and you just left high school, or you just left secondary school. And I believe that it's very important that we provide that kind of guidance, training, mentoring for our young persons, so that they feel a lot more confident for the future. And I think that is very important in what we have to do for them.
Quincy, I am here thinking you can't really spend, let me put it differently. It cannot be said that you can never spend too much money on young people in this environment. You really can't spend too much money on young people, because that is the portion of humanity here that is problematic.
And what do we do? What we need to definitely do as a government is build on what we have first. I am glad to hear of Damien's testimony of the Barbados Sports Program. I have a testimony too, where I came from youth orchestra, really playing saxophone. And athlete musician. Yes. So with things, entities such as the youth service and the Barbados Sports Program and the youth orchestra and the youth entrepreneurship, these are the things that we need to not try to reinvent or retool or rebuild or all the
gone there before.
Try to do all the different rebrandings.
Pretty language.
Pretty language. But all they just need to do is invest in these entities. Let's give friends.
That's the young people.
Yeah. So for instance, youth orchestra. Over the years, youth orchestra has been begging for a home. But young still don't have a home for the young people for all different schools that come together to play on a Dujon night lynch.
So a home for the youth orchestra is what? Tell us, it's a building?
It not only needs to be a building, but it needs to be a school of music.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that are plaguing a lot of schools right now are the investment of instruments into the school program. Luckily, schools like Foundation have invested into the steel pan. But if we continue to invest in different instruments, because what happens is you go to the school, you develop the child, but then they come to the orchestra as a graduation. This is where we come together to play the orchestra music.
At what age do you come to the
You can go at your orchestra as young as 8 years old or even younger, because you've got some young.
If you're that talented.
You should have real talented. Very talented with the violins and the instruments. But if we use things such as instruments or clubs, like for instance, I was a cadet, so I was a sergeant. You know me.
Drill sergeant, Quincy Jones.
I know drill.
Barking orders at people.
Not tonight in public, though, man. But what I would say is that cadets have helped me, and youth orchestra has helped me, and those things actually came not by I wanted to do it, because at that time they used to do a program called the enrichment program, and the enrichment program that was offered for all schools on Fridays, where you had to do activities. You had to do something that deals with community and deals with culture. That's how I learned to play badminton. That's how I learned to get in cadets, and that's how I learned to do with the youth orchestra. And I picked the saxophone. I realized I could blow the sax, and I could play the sax very good then.
Very good.
But it is these organizations that we need not to pull away.
Right.
But we just need to invest.
Is it the situation that this structured youth activity seems to end like in your early 20s and you just go off somewhere and do your own thing? People cannot move into careers and spend, let's say, 20, 25, 30 years.
No, I would say it can happen.
It can happen.
Once.
It can happen. But it can. Yeah. But should it happen in the new government?
It should happen, because there you can then, for instance, your orchestra can then challenge in scholarships to Berkeley School.
Precisely.
There you can challenge persons in the Barbados Defense Force to go in high ranking order to become the next chief of staff of Barbados Defense Force. There you can go into the sports program like Theo Besson and others, and even know of a fellow in Christchurch Central, Ricardo Morris, who's a good footballer.
You know some campaigning.
I don't know.
No campaigning.
Very good.
So it's supposed to get But in different aspects, and even in my area, in Christchurch Central, there's a young tennis player called Darren King.
In East Central?
East Central. We got the
You ended up there, you know.
Of course. Not every star. But for right now, it just shows that talent, and if young people are given the opportunity, the investment in sports, in the Olympic Association, so that the persons can become professional sports, given a salary. Because that's why the sports program was really good, because it was like a semi-professional where you were actually getting paid for doing something that you love.
And that you were good at.
And you were good at, for sure. And that is why young people are now broken now, and the households are broken. And being a teacher, I can tell you now that the opportunities when you leave school, as long as come to me and say, sir, I don't know what to do, because my family don't have that sort of collateral, or they don't have that sort of knowledge, because of whatever personal reasons.
They don't know what to do.
And they don't know what to do.
And then the infrastructure disappears.
Correct. And the first thing a young person wants is a license. And they want to go, and they want to get a license and go on I think a 100. What's that?
A100. Toyota.
Oh, no, they go to the Xenia on the Suzuki Swift. But the problem is, I tell them, all right, I want you to not only try to save for that, but you've got to save now to take care of it. It's not just by buying the car that day, but it's about taking care of putting in the gas, getting the service, and stuff. And they didn't realize that it was so much money in the investment of just that car. And some actually went ahead and using that car as their royalty. Some people buying a car as their strength of getting through in society, that they have made it. And it's sad that it's just a car. But if we continue to invest in these opportunities, these clubs, right now at university, they're telling students that they have to do 600 hours in community hours. 600 hours. 600 hours in 3 years. Part of their program that they're trying to do community hours. They got the service hours. My thing is, let's not just do 600 hours a day. I believe in giving back. But let us channel from nursery straight to tertiary, get children involved in extra activities or after school activities, where those hours are counted from beginning from their nursery until they get to university. In China, that does it in that program called the volunteer program in China. I went to China and saw it in full action, and even some of the other side members like Ramel Spur went with me to see that it can work. But I'm just saying that, you know, they see it, they have never come and implement it. These are the summer programs that are needed. The summer camp program that was once big underneath us. We were making sure that not only was children being taken care of, you had vendors and the people in the community taking care of the lunches. And it was providing jobs for persons in the community. You had young people coming to be the invigilators, and they were given stipends and everything. It was big back then. And now it has
the responsibility. How old were these invigilators?
Some of the invigilators were as young as 18 years old. And you can, and some of them have now gone into teaching because of that experience of taking charge, of being we have to give young people the opportunity to lead.
Now, if we don't invest in our young people, and this is financially invest, if we don't spend the millions of dollars that we need to, what happens to this society?
Look at what's happening in Barbados right now. That is what happens to this society. Look at what is happening in Barbados right now. And
these are healthy young people who are in the streets
that can be productive, contributing members to society. But opportunities that were there have been taken away from them. It really is a lack of vision, because there were structured programs there that could have been tweaked, modified, built on. There is no greater investment than investing in the development of our young people. We develop at different ages. At 16, some know what they want to do. Many don't. What happens to those who didn't come up in the most disciplined environment? They reach 16, they don't have to be at school anymore. There's no structured program like what was there before. They go to wave the street. And we've seen how that works out. So you absolutely should invest in your young people, because in doing that, you're investing in your country. And I definitely agree. I believe that we do need a structured discipline program, something similar to what was there in the case of the BDF program. You can modify, you can tweak, but there are many that definitely need to be in such a program. And during that time, quite often, many will now discover what they want to do with themselves. And even if by the time the program is finished, 2 years, 3 years, they haven't settled on a particular career path, what they have certainly can be inculcated in them during that time is the idea of income creation, income generation, multiple revenue streams. Because, it isn't necessarily a given that you're going to be in one particular career, like was the case 20, 30, 40 years ago anymore. But the sense that, hey, I need to contribute to my own personal development. So that's where such a program comes.
From the time I heard of this concept of the mini stadia, I criticized it. Building a fence around an existing field and calling it a mini stadium. And I was driving through St. Lucie yesterday, and we went to visit Mrs. Leacock. And the field next to the cement plant looks abandoned. Big fence around it, nobody on it. Damien, what is this all about? This as an athlete, has the idea of the mini stadium, speaking singularly, has that been a success?
I can tell you that the concept hasn't grown on me at all, because I always ask myself, when we produce athletes like Sade, Ryan Brockway, when we produce our cricketers and our footballers, how do we do it? Because the facilities here are lacking.
First of all, sorry to interrupt you. You go to New York, and most of the boroughs, you can find a mini stadium. It has a track. They play American football, so the football field is in the middle. Soccer is growing there now, and they have a soccer field in the middle. Of course, their beloved basketball, there's a court there. How does it compare with what we are calling mini stadia here? Ice the fence.
The fence. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Some lights. So I want us to tell Barbadians we do not have mini stadia in Barbados. And the closest we've come to a mini stadia is the Usain Bolt complex.
Yeah.
But what the government has done, you know, it's been a fraud committed on Barbadians. We don't have mini stadia. I would have thought, Elvis, that a little child goes home and he's been 12, 13 years old, he likes to run. And you give those children at least 3 tracks. It doesn't have to be a 400 meters. It could be a 200. You just turn it down.
Yeah.
But they have perpetrated a fraud on Barbadians by telling them that they have mini stadia. Felicia, you want to say something? You're laughing.
I'm sure if I should.
Is it going to be defamatory?
No, I'm always cautious of that. But the truth of the matter is that we have a misguided government.
Yes.
A government that provides poor leadership to its people. It's not only about providing laws and policy, but how do you direct your populace? How do you direct your citizens? And so this is what we're seeing. We're seeing a government with poor leadership. And I can ask that question, what has the government done? Or what has the leader of this country has done to provide guidance, direction for the youth of this country? We haven't seen that. We haven't seen anything that will allow us to applaud this government and say, yes, you're doing something excellent and providing direction for the youth. We haven't seen that. And so everything that we've seen is very ad hoc decisions being made. Oh, well, let's short term, and just lavish spending of taxpayers' money
When they want to spend it.
and nothing that is substantiative enough to create that sense of imagination for young people that I could do this, I could become this. And so it's not surprising to me that when we pass and we see, I don't know, it's probably just for the goats they have this, because that's all. I mean, that's why I said I didn't want to say anything.
That's why you were laughing.
Because that's what I see. They're not
Grazing fields.
they're not seeing the vision that this is what we need to do for our people. This is if we are to do mini stadiums, this is the research that we need to do before we go ahead and implement it so that it is sustainable. Because if we're doing anything with taxpayers' money, ensure that it's sustainable for the citizens. You're going around fencing places that right now is only being used for fete and partying. That's what I have seen.
Precisely.
And it does not in any way propel young people to say, okay, well, let's go and play some football after school. Let's do some cricket. Let's get our coaches and volunteers into the communities to help them. So it's a government that lacks that kind of vision. The vision is very short-termed, that let me do this now because it's important. But then we have a government that's an absentee government or leader that is hardly in the country. So the types of decisions that they make, it has to be short-term. It has to be something I can just say about it, run off, come back, let's see if it works or if it doesn't work. And this is what I perceive this government very misguided in its approach.
Producer wants us to read Lemuel Tell. That's the name. Yeah, let's give Lemuel some credit. No, you can see it.
Yes, please. Lemuel Tell. This government seems to be good at knocking down and mashing up things. The Hilton, the fire station, the treasury, the stadium, Louis Lynch, the BDS sports program. What else? The prison?
I don't know if we're going to be digressing here, but you mentioned the destruction in town of the treasury building. They haven't destroyed that, but they've removed and we're going to drift away from sports presently. We've lost in town the immigration department there behind Broad Street. We lost the in the revenue, it used to be called, in the treasury building, and we lost the other one that was stepped down. Thanks, Mr. Tull, the NIS building. And businesses in Broad Street started to suffer. I mean, you move how many public servants out of Bridgetown? 500 public servants out of Bridgetown. And that was the sustenance, that was the lifeblood of Broad Street and Swan Street. When we did the budget reply, and we decided to leave the abuse behind them there, the abuse of me, and we walked down Swan Street. Oh man, it was a sad story. I wished I had $1 million in my pocket just to give the people who have lost so much. Because because the government decided to remove people out of Bridgetown. You know, and they do things and they don't understand or appreciate the consequences. There's no development plan. So there's a try to rebuild it lying down empty. And nothing. The NIS building has gone, the immigration been moved down by the fish market, and the lifeblood of Bridgetown has gone, and the people in Swan Street in Bangalore. It's a sad story, Elvis. They're telling you, we're not making any money. And Broad Street is shrinking. One department
Yeah,
store.
a lot of places boarded up.
Yeah, boarded up.
It looks quite run down.
Oh man, you look at the old photographs of Broad
quite-
Street.
quite-
Oh, it was a
Quite
beautiful
run
place.
down. A capital in some respects in name only, because a lot of the economic activity, administrative activity, etc., is outside of Bridgetown at the moment. Really, it seems the singular priority for government as far as development is tourism.
Yeah.
And hotel.
Yeah.
Let's build another hotel. That will solve all it. Build another hotel.
And I should add to that list of infrastructural entities that hurt Bridgetown, the park, which used to be Independence Square. People used to drive into Bridgetown, lock the car, across the bridge, beautiful walk across the bridge into Bridgetown. That has hurt businesses in Bridgetown. In fact, I can tell you that there's one store, I hope I can say this. One store in Bridgetown lost the right to sell very expensive watch. You like the watches, Quincy. And they lost that right because the prestige of Broad Street has gone. And the people told them, look, we want our watches sold at a place that looks prestigious, looks high-end. So let's move from sport to, we're versatile people here. Let's move to the need for urban renewal. And let's start with Broad Street and Swan Street, because there are people in Swan Street who are suffering. Y'all know Swan Street, do you? Good. Well, let's talk about Swan Street. What are we going to do? There are a lot of people there trying to feed their families. What are we going to do? Start thinking, gentlemen and ladies. What are we going to do with these young people who have decided that they want to build their lives and support their families? Vending. They're business people. What are we going to do with them?
A lot of activity, as we said, has moved out of Bridgetown.
Yes.
One of the various reasons, certainly one of the reasons that I have identified is limited public parking. You know, in the heart of the city, like how there was before. Persons look, I have to park all the way.
Yeah.
And walk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go somewhere else and buy what I need to buy. That is a strong deterrent. Where you used to be able to park over by the old mountain and walk across the bridge and go.
Like walk across the bridge.
Yeah, that's you know, we have a hotel in there. Another hotel is supposed to go in. So yeah, limited parking. The idea that you have to walk a long distance to get to these business places, because certainly, you know, on Swan Street, some of the things that you'll find there will be more reasonable than you will find in other locations outside of Swan Street, you know, where there are plazas, etc. But the hassle, you know, of finding somewhere to park and then to walk to these locations, many persons calculate it's not worth it anymore. I would just go to one of the outside malls, pay a little extra. It's not worth it going to Bridgetown.
Yeah, so we've removed the patrons, we've removed the customers. So the vendor will suffer.
Yes.
Once you take away the access, then those who rely on that access will suffer economically. My question is that, like, if you're going to engage in renewal, in urban renewal, it must be done with a clear plan as to how you are going to get it done, so that you can increase the traffic to town, and then increase the economic prosperity of those who rely on town to pay their bills and to feed their children, and so on. So I believe that it does start with infrastructure. We must get back people the accessibility to town.
It must become a town again.
It must become a town. It must become a town. It must attract. It must attract those individuals that come for whatever business that they want. The ease of business as well. Because they find that it's very difficult to do business in Barbados, because you come to a place, you have to go all the way to this place to do something that you could probably just come to one spot and do it, right? So infrastructure in regards to getting people the ease of access so that they can come to town and do everything that they need to do in one spot.
Quincy, yes, Felicia.
I love Bridgetown. It's a place where it's almost like the heartbeat of Barbados. You can move from Sutter Street to
Broad Street.
Broad Street, and then what we just called one street.
Broad Street, yeah.
Because when
And
you
meet
think,
people
well,
and get the feel of people.
that's where I shop.
Yeah.
It's when I'm on campus on a Friday, this is where I go because you feel the energy
Yes.
of a Barbadian experiences
yes,
in
yes.
Swan Street. You see all the different shops and the history as well in terms of the Jewish settlement in Bridgetown itself, and you get that diversity when you're there.
Yes.
But there's a number of concerns that I think it's important to raise. It's not only in terms of urban renewal of the community itself, but when you look at it in terms of how do we deal with persons within their constituency itself, of the constituency of Bridgetown. The taxi men have always complained that they do not have washroom facilities. This is something basic that we can think about. And this is the kinds of issues that we have, that they ply in the trade. They have people that, do the little vendoring and stuff. There's no public washrooms in Bridgetown.
Well, they treat them like an unwanted
Yes,
presence.
but that should not be, because they're people and that they contribute to the economy as well. I think these are the kinds
And
of,
they add to the character.
that's what we need to think about.
Yes.
The drainage.
Yes.
When it rains, can you actually go to Bridgetown?
No.
So all of those kinds of
It
issues.
gets very ugly.
No,
Anyway.
when I have boots, so so you have to
Through water.
you have to go to how does it affect the man that's selling his plantain or his juices? He on a rainy day he can't work because the drainage is very poor in Bridgetown. And these are the kinds of areas that I think that we really, and let's not forget crime. It is an issue.
Yeah.
We have to recognize
They're begging,
it as well.
the government is begging us for ideas. Let's give them some. Look, government. Could we think in terms of bringing civil service departments back to Bridgetown? Quincy?
It can happen. But I do agree with Damien. Without proper structure, we can't bring them back to what we have now. We have to bring them back with a proper plan.
Yeah, of course.
Proper infrastructure, proper parking, proper traffic flow in town. I think that even in town, certain areas now need to be redeveloped in terms of how traffic flows, in terms of one-way streets and different streets.
Yeah.
And another thing we need to pay attention to is the rent of these facilities.
Still expensive.
It's still very expensive. And that's why I'm seeing now more vendors in the street
Yes.
than in their
But that's interesting.
Their
I think
store.
some of the vendors, some of the stores actually send their employees on the sidewalk. Why is that?
because they have high rent to pay and people are not coming in no more.
Right.
So now they're going, so they have to go to the people.
To the people, yeah.
And what's happening now is it's starting to create a confusion, a chaos, even to war, and congestion and everything like that. So we need to address issues such as the rental facilities in Bridgetown, infrastructure, traffic flow, all these things. We need a whole renewal plan to get Bridgetown how it is or how we can develop it in the near future.
So we're seeing the idea of Bridgetown decline
Yes.
before our very eyes.
For monuments.
Monuments. And we're doing nothing. The government appears to be doing nothing. As you said, Felicia, for monuments. Building monuments. But we're not paying attention to the larger development of Bridgetown, the larger commercial and development of Bridgetown.
That's what it is. And we've removed basic amenities like fire stations
Yes.
to put symbolic symbols that does not in any way have an impact within the society. And that's what I'm saying, that this government doesn't have much foresight. Like, why would you remove a fire station to put a monument that took up the entire space?
Well, somebody found use for the monument, the young lady. I hope you didn't know that.
But
You should not be seeing that video.
If we are to take the serious business of this country, I think this government does not have the vision for more than a year. I'm just more than a year. Let's put this here, but we do not have a foresight as to the impact that it would have and how it would lead to perhaps a few years from now. How does it affect? Because when you take out the fire station, and of course you have the, so what I'm seeing is the taxi men, because they're still there. They're trying to squeeze themselves between that monument.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yes, yes.
So
Oh,
they're basically
they
push
treated,
them
they're
out.
treating them very
Right,
bad.
they
They told us. They told us.
They push them
Yeah.
out, and
Yeah.
it's
And there
again,
used to be a tree. They used to shelter under the tree.
yes,
And
but
I think
there's
that's
still,
gone.
you know, all of that.
Not even a bench.
Not a
They have a
bench,
bench
the
on there,
no bench.
wardrooms and the taxi people that they have been working for us on our behalf. It's not, this is a government which is not people-centered.
Yeah, they're,
And
it's a,
they
they're
don't-
undesirable
Yes,
presence as
so,
far as the
yes, so
government is
just,
concerned.
you know, let's just put this monument here, whoever, you know, we don't care how it fits within the you know, the structure of the society. So
I'm smiling because it fits
no,
somebody
because
recently.
every time I see the taxi man, I feel so bad for them because
Yeah,
they're squeezed in the little corner by
Yeah.
Chauffet and another set squeezed in the corner.
Yes.
They have not seen that these are people that we need to help. If we are going to do that, how do we perhaps relocate them in a way that they feel like decent human beings
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
our
And
society?
they act the character of the city.
Of course,
Yeah,
they
city,
do,
you
and
know,
they're
people.
working. They're
And they are
workers.
working. Yeah.
They're working on our behalf, but the way we treat our own by this government is very, very, very concerning.
But
That
let's
should be
look
considered.
then at the kind of development that government seems to have planned in secret, tourism oriented. They're doing the place across by the, what do you call it, screwed up or something. And then I remember going to a meeting earlier in this government administration and hearing the plan to build hotels from Needham's right down the coast, right down to the harbor. Tourism. So that maybe we can only speculate. Maybe the plan is not to do anything with for the persons you identified, the indigenous people who come to town as private business persons. Maybe there's nothing for them. Maybe it is intended that they should be squeezed out and
Yes.
we have a tourism-oriented city.
Awesome.
Would be, Felicia, is this something you would support?
I
A
would
city that is
no.
based like a little Miami? Or is,
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What are we gaining from it? What is the possible rule?
steel and glass on the seafront?
Is that revenue? How is it benefiting us? When we have those hotels, is it benefiting us? Our employees, are they being paid well? And these are the kinds of concerns that we would have. The persons that are actually coming, the visitors that are coming, how much are they paying for this hotel room? Are they high, you know, very wealthy persons that we can actually make money from? And I think this is what it is. And I said, this is a government that thinks more utilitarian. We just think about short term and how
Yes.
benefits us
Sure.
and not the
Yeah.
majority. And it's very subjective in its approach that I'm only going to do this to see how I could benefit or how a few could benefit from it. And I think that is the concern there, that we tend to remove our average Barbadian
Yes.
from the conversation, not including them in any form of development. And it's almost like an afterthought. Okay, we're going to do that. If you survive, you survive. If you don't, well,
Well, the
It's up to
majority
you.
of hotels are owned not by Barbadians.
Exactly.
So it's not an indigenous
so
enterprise.
what is its value to us? What do we gain from it?
The
And I think that's-
cultural desecration that takes place, as in Whole Town Job,
Yeah.
that was the protest, much of the
The-
protest.
The emphasis on hotels tourism also flies in the face of something that most of us heard growing up. Don't put all your eggs
They want
in
back.
one basket. The idea of building all your hopes on any one industry alone, I personally think we missed a golden opportunity during the pandemic where we were brought to zero
Precisely.
to reset, to rethink the opportunity to
We should have done
develop
agriculture.
other areas of the
We should
economy.
have, to feed ourselves, we should have done
The
agriculture.
government came out of the pandemic even more determined and hell bent on tourism than they were before.
Don't
And
understand
that is nonsensical.
It is.
And by the way, we're not exactly, a competitive jurisdiction. So we're thinking that we can
In
attract
terms of
only
tourism.
high-end tourists, in terms of tourists, only high-end tourists. So even when we get arrivals, spend is low. There's a big disconnect between arrivals and boasting about arrivals and spend. But it's all tourism, hotels, and many of which spend half the year empty.
Yes.
I know many hotel workers that are home now.
And
have to do
the
other
flights,
things.
with the flights are coming from England and going on that. I think it's St. Lucia and Grenada.
Yes.
So
There
we
are
are
more
sharing our English
There are
flights.
more cost-effective jurisdictions than Barbados.
Precisely. Let's talk a little agriculture. We have time, yeah. Who wants to talk agriculture? This is such a bright panel. We're talking everything tonight.
Yeah, we have a farmer here. So I'll
Yeah,
say
we have a
something
farmer
and-
here.
and-
We have a
and
farmer
then
here.
the farmer.
Look, is there a case for agriculture in this country?
Absolutely. There is nothing more important than being able to feed yourself.
Yeah.
You know, as a physician as well, my concern is
Healthy eating.
we precisely
Yeah.
right now we import most of what we eat and it's processed.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity to feed ourselves, or at least certainly contribute more to what we consume. So that what little foreign exchange we earn from tourism that isn't going back out to the owners,
Correct.
whatever little remains, we have to send it out to buy stuff to bring back in,
Jump.
because we insist on allowing our agricultural land to run to ruin.
Felicia, why are you laughing?
Agriculture has been up, but in fact, it seems like the only thing the Ministry of Agriculture has to show for the last 7 years is the medical marijuana bill.
A bill.
A bill.
20 million and rising.
A bill. That's it. That has been their priority.
Yeah.
And sending that bill sheet to Ghana.
In
They
any-
sent somebody to come to me. He hasn't come back.
He hasn't come back yet.
A lot of them.
So, but what has the Ministry of Agriculture to show for the last 7 years? It's an abject embarrassment.
And I think that's what it is. Your question,
Yes.
I think,
Is there a case for agriculture?
well, we're human beings. We need to eat.
Gotta eat.
So we don't have a choice in that. It's almost from this is what we do.
So why is the government putting so much cement on the agricultural land?
Because the government does not live here.
We're going to come back to you.
But
You prepare your next speech.
I think that is something.
Five flights in 83
You don't
months.
have to eat here.
5.
Huh?
How
Yeah.
many?
At least 95 flights in 83 months.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
so
More than
they,
one a month.
yeah. So they don't eat here. They don't eat here.
You wanted us to go out?
I really want to, because I also believe that it is time that every constituency think about having those agricultural hub, so that every constituency have that capacity.
Yes.
So it's not only, and even St. James North, that we are looking in terms of that, how we can assist our farmers. So
But look, let's get political down there.
yeah.
The government is de-emphasizing agriculture. The gentleman who's running against you, I'm saying he's running against you. He is talking about agriculture. So there's a contradiction between the government's official policy,
Mhm.
national policy, and the claims that he is making down there.
He probably just got here too, so he doesn't really
Oh, yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand the Minister of Agriculture that is part of his government.
Precisely.
So had he understood that, he would understand that there's so much issues that farmers have raised,
Mhm.
whether it's in terms of water access, whether it's in terms of the subsidies that they get, the rebates. Basic farmer, one of the things that they have to do, they have to provide all of the kinds of necessities that they need, and then you apply for the rebate. And sometimes that takes so long. You find young farmers, especially a number of young persons, want to get into agriculture, but it's an expensive endeavor. It's
It
not
is.
cheap.
Is it?
It is not cheap. It's
The
not
cost?
cheap. Yes, the
Yeah.
course, and also you not only that
Where are
you
the major costs? Labor?
well, not particular labor. You have to buy, whether it's the seedlings, you have to buy your fertilizers, and
Seedlings are expensive.
you have to do irrigation. Yes, you have to do irrigation, which is very important as well. And if you
We import the seedlings? I'm sorry.
but
I'm
the
curious.
the Ministry of Agriculture, they tend to assist in some cases, but you have to ensure that you take care of the plot. And if you're renting the plot, you have to do the plowing and everything else. One of the concerns that farmers have, even if the Ministry of Agriculture tells you that they will send a tractor, when does the tractor comes in? If they have very limited ones, you have to pay. You pay a small fee, but again, it's when the capacity.
Mhm.
And these are all the issues. Now you can imagine a young person wanting to do agriculture. These are the issues that they have to deal with. I've met young persons in the constituency that have the land, that have the chicken coop, that have the sheep, but they cannot get the intervention that is required. There's certain countries that subsidize the farming sector.
United
We
States
do
does.
not subsidize our farmers. And I want to emphasize that, because people assume that farmers get the kinds of assistance that they do. So when you get the opponent, yes, when you get the opponent talking about a cooperation, he
Yes.
does not
Does not.
understand from the slightest idea.
Apparently, they were down there waiting for him to come and form a cooperative.
But you see, the thing about that constituency, they do not produce on a large scale. So many of the land, you don't get acres and acres of land. It's very,
I'm coming here now.
So-
Which is more viable, animals or plants?
it all depends. It all depends on how much, because
But both can make money.
of course,
Well, if they
of
can
course.
make money,
We
why aren't
need to, because
Why is it the government emphasizing it?
we have a misguided government, and all the ministries you've seen our Minister of Agriculture,
I have.
and you heard what he have said and the kinds of intervention. I was going to say he's probably one of the worst ministers, but it seems all of them are. So I'm just going to, since we're speaking about agriculture, they do not get the kind of intervention. And we know that millions of dollars have been spent and allocated for the intervention of farmers, but that is not. So it was kind of humorous when the opponents started speaking about a corporation. To do what exactly? When you have farmers that are struggling.
You laugh. It's not funny.
No, they're struggling in that constituency, and you do not understand, because I don't think he has really gone through the constituency to see
Yes.
what the struggles that farmers have been enduring for the last 7 years under this government when it comes to agriculture and the agricultural sector. So I think it's important that we provide that support. And as a government, as an incoming government, we need to do more. And I think if more funding is required for agriculture, we need to do it, because if we can't eat, we might as well forget existence. And that's as simple as it is.
And the thing is,
Quincy,
our farmers showed us their worth, their value, how
During COVID.
important. They fed us
Yes.
during COVID.
Yes, yes.
They did it. And you would think, coming out of COVID, lessons learned, tourism was brought to its knees. We had to support tourism. Our farmers supported us.
Yes.
That there would have been greater emphasis on, you know what? Yeah, we can grow. We can really push agriculture, significantly cut our food import bill, eat a lot healthier, and be less reliant on the fickle industry called tourism.
And our fisher folk as well. Let's not forget them.
We
as well.
had some healthy food at the office today.
Oh, we
Yam,
cook. Yes, we cook our food at the
plantain.
office.
the St. Michael Central ladies.
Yes. Every day
Good
we get
people.
fresh,
You know, I had some
fresh
today.
food. Fresh
Yeah.
food every day. We cook our food.
They made a case for agriculture in Barbados.
I believe so, especially if you get the youth involved in it. It could be a grassroots program from primary school,
Yeah.
something that you implement and teach them how to work the land and
Mm-hmm.
how to sustain life off of it, and basically carry
They
it through
do that.
to tertiary or
Cubs do it as well,
secondary,
the
and you can
Scouts, yeah.
move on in the sense that where if you provide the funding and make it fun for young people to get involved, right, they will come, and we can at least save the arable land. Stop giving it away. Save something so that we can at least work with it for those persons who want to get into farming.
Yes.
Because young people might tell themselves, well, I don't want to quote unquote have the traditional corporate office job.
Mhm.
I want to live off the land. I want to provide off
Yes.
of the land. So you have to put avenues in place so that those people can succeed when they venture into that particular enterprise.
Let's see. Case for agriculture.
I definitely believe that agriculture is important for our economy. It's the backbone of our economy.
It is the backbone. You think it is?
I think it is.
The government thinks tourism is the backbone.
No, I'm not even getting with them yet. They're not with them yet. But what I would then say is that during COVID, we had to turn to backyard gardening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we had to learn to do the parsley and the thyme and the different things to feed ourselves.
Mhm.
And if that situation didn't help us recognizing that we cannot rely on outside or external entities,
Mhm.
whether they put on tariffs or not, on different things.
Mm-hmm.
Our food bill
Mhm.
is very high,
Mm-hmm.
Too high.
or extremely high,
Yes.
Unhealthy food.
and unhealthy
Yes.
food.
Yeah.
And we are promoting at schools to eat healthy and have the correct nutrition policy and different things. But yet, someone told me that Parliament still, some of these same government ministers still eat lavish, still eat the pork and the pie and different things. But if you wanted to buy in for the schools, then they should have buy in for themselves at the different ministries at where they were, so that everyone is starting to buy in.
Mhm.
Now, the major thing of promoting agriculture is to have the buy-in of everybody on board.
Mhm.
And buy-in represents a good marketing tool that educating persons that agriculture is necessary. It protects us from strokes and heart attacks where a lot of persons are dying before even recognizing what happened to them. They're just dropping down. And one of the things is it's eating healthy. And we have to eat healthy. And by eating healthy, we have to grow our own food and grow the right things and not the illegal things.
Yes.
Grow the right things and grow the healthy things. That by that, I'm promoting more agriculture, get back to the sugarcane. If not use sugarcane, what other big crops can we use to use the arable land to make and provide for different persons? I know that the Ministry of Agriculture has this program where in St. Lucie they give young people 1 acre of land. But they give the acre of land and then young people up there is having problems with water. Because they don't look back at them to providing water. So this is St. Lucie. St. Lucie. And so that's what
irrigation is very expensive too.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
And to get water just to grow the crops. And then there's the aspect of the stealing of crops. So we have to look at agriculture in a new sense. Young people are interested.
That was my question. You teach.
Yes.
Do you have young people in your school who you think would be interested in going into agriculture to make a living?
I think it is still necessary.
And you teach in a secondary school.
A secondary school. I think that every secondary school, I may be wrong, but all have agricultural beds.
They do still?
They do still.
We just have
But
to work
the problem is that some of them
There's
have
nothing
become
there.
abandoned
Yeah.
Abandoned.
Yes.
because of lack of resources.
Yeah.
The
How
boards,
costly is it to maintain our cultural base in the school?
it depends
Tell me
on,
about lack of resources.
yeah, lack of resources. It's based on the machinery. They're not investing in the machinery properly, the equipment for them to rear, and then only that the seedlings and different things
Yeah.
that
It's
are
a
things.
cost,
What
yeah.
they should be doing is
You know
that
the government invests in that.
Yeah.
You knew that. And you telling me that you can't invest in agricultural base in school?
and not only that,
People, they mean it's like,
and not only that, what you could have been doing too is that by letting the students invest in agriculture at the schools, that same supply of lettuce and stuff, and then go to the canteen for the students to
Yeah,
have.
well, that's something that we can look at
It could be upcycled.
instead of the menu that they have right.
It is not done, and it's not
so agriculture is on your syllabus at school? It is at most of the
It
secondary
was
schools.
a school. It was a school.
Is it successful?
I would think that a lot of students are not interested because they're not putting the weight into it as how they should.
Who is not putting the weight into it?
The government's not putting it the weight as they should.
Yeah.
But if they do invest in it, put in machinery and stuff like that, the problem is when students go and do agriculture, when they get there, they ain't got the tools. So then they waste a whole 2 periods
Yeah.
starting out with anybody. Or if they do get the tools, they ain't got the seedling. If they get the seedling, the grass not plowing. And sometimes the plowing is not by the students, it's by the workers of the school. So it's a whole breakdown. And based on that breakdown, that's where we are having young people not as interested as they used to be. But we can make it happen because young people are interested in agriculture. And as I continue to say, it is the backbone of our economy.
We are getting a lot of our young people graduating from secondary school and going on to university to do agriculture.
I would say no.
We're not.
No.
But there are the polytechnic.
Yeah.
There's
Oh, they do have
there's an excellent program at the
Really?
college. Yes, there is an excellent program
And
at
when they finished.
when they actually my younger sister came here to study agriculture. And I keep saying that agriculture is a science because it's not only that they're going to teach you how to plant and whatnot, you learn the science of agriculture. And I remember she had to do a project where she had to look at the different varieties of the sugarcane plant. And when the seedlings and everything else about that, I think it's important that we have to encourage young persons in those fields. And you spoke about the school meals program. And when you look at the menu, and I've said that a number of times, when we look at the menu, it does not highlight our own indigenous foods. Children should be having what we grow, the yam, the potatoes, the cassava. And we need to do that. The fish, things that we produce, that's what we should be giving our young persons in school. And I think the Ministry of Education has to look at seriously, if we're talking about nutrition and nutrition policies, we have to look at how can we incorporate our own indigenous plants and foods so that our children could learn to grow and love them. If you don't teach children how to eat cassava and all of these things and breadfruit and you had some good breadfruit today or whatever you had today, teach our people how to enjoy what is healthy for them and what our forefathers have left for us. And so these are, I think it's very important. And I believe that we need to seriously think in terms of how we get our young persons into the agricultural programs, the unemployed youth. There is solutions for that. And I am quite sure a number of young men would want to be in the agricultural sector if they know that it can regenerate revenue. It's a lucrative business. When you make your money, you make good money. And the idea is that how do we encourage them into the field, give them the kind of training, the kind of network. So whether it is that they got the land to rent out or whatever it is, you can't just give a man a piece of land and tell him you go ahead and work. You have to provide the facilities for them. So perhaps it could be that we attach them to various farms so that they can learn the different stages and methodologies that is being used, because everything has a methodology in and of itself, whether it's livestock, whether it's in terms of crop production, so that they learn and look at what do we need as a society. Do we need more potatoes? Do we need more cassavas? Can we provide that for the hospitals? Can we provide it for schools? And how much do we need instead of importing as much as we can? Can we do it because we do have the land resources?
We do.
Because they're using it for other areas. So what we need to do is to have a government that is refocused. And this is where the Democratic Labour Party needs to step in and get this government out. I have to say that again, because this misguided government is not really interested in feeding people. They're more interested in, feed their egos. And it's really about, you have people partying, but you're not telling people that they need to grow food and, provide the direction of citizens, which is very important for this government. I think this is what we ought to do and continue. But I need to say that to the fisher folks in St. James North, my vision also is to provide a jetty, and hopefully the Democratic Labour Party can provide that, because I don't think this government is interested in anything to do with agriculture, anything to do with the fisher folks or anything, but I think a jetty is needed in that constituency, and I'm hoping that I can advocate enough so that we can get a jetty so that a vote for the fisher folk in St. James North. They deserve one. They deserve one. And I think the fisher folk village here have been there long enough so that they can get a jetty. The fisher folk would need that. And I'm hoping that they can place their trust in me, and so that I can continue the fight for them on that day.
That sounds a lot better than you.
We have seen what has happened during Hurricane Barrow, and we believe that the fisher folk, particularly in Western, deserve that kind of intervention, which is important for them, for all the craft that they do and how they support our constituency and our country as a whole. One of our visions from the Democratic Labour Party is to build a jetty for our fisher folk so that their boats will not be destroyed during any kind of natural disasters. It makes it easier for the fisher folk. I've spoken to a number of them, and it is our dream at one point to do that for them. So hopefully the government can see the need to build a jetty for our fisher folk on Western. As you can see, there is no jetty on Western. So what they usually have to do is to bring almost something like a pulley to pull the boats in, or the jet skis or anything of that nature. And hopefully one day the government will see it fit that a jetty is needed in this constituency. And it is my vision that one day our fisher folks will have a proper jetty so that they'll be able to haul their boats in during times of natural disaster and on an everyday basis.
Excellent. I think the producer was drawing our attention to Mr. Stephen Strickland at some point.
Yeah.
Doc, you can help us there.
Oh.
Ms. Dujon could be the Minister of Agriculture. She has the passion and knowledge. Intervention is missing. The present minister is looking at agriculture in a test tube.
I don't think he's looking at all.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
We're coming 2 minutes to 9, and we did not cover half of what we wanted to. I wanted to say that, did I talk about the meeting? We had
No,
planned
no,
for tomorrow.
Oh, yes, you haven't done
I
that, so
did.
you could go. No, you haven't
We were supposed to be doing a spot meeting at Trent's
this evening.
tomorrow, and we discovered this evening that the government had, to use the term, blocked all these spaces. In other words, you either go big or go home.
Mhm.
And we discovered today that you either be big and powerful and perhaps abusive of power. And so we're going to do our spot meeting in Trent's tomorrow. But again, here's a case of government abusing its power. You are the government, and you go to the police or whoever you go to, and you block all of the spaces where meetings can be held to disadvantage the opponent. Another illustration of money against morality. And on this occasion, they think money and power will win out. But we're going to do our meeting tomorrow. I want to close the discussion on the frequent abuses of power by this government. And we were discussing COVID just now, the elections during COVID. To my mind, that was an abuse of power.
It was.
And you always talk about it, Doc.
I will talk about it again now.
Yes,
it
please.
was an abuse of power.
Yeah.
And in fact, I will go so far as to say that the Prime Minister, as the guardian of our democracy, committed an unpardonable sin as far as democracy is concerned, human guardian. At the time that election was called on December 27, 2021, Barbados started another COVID surge to be expected around that time of the year.
There was a surge at that
Yeah.
time.
Christmas,
The
partying,
election
all
was
years,
called,
right? The election was
coincided
called
with that.
coinciding with a surge. And the election was called without any provision being made for persons who were in isolation to be able to vote, without
yes,
any provision
yes.
being made, none whatsoever. Bahamas held election September of that same year.
Yes.
A release from the Prime Minister's office made it abundantly clear that persons with COVID would be allowed to vote. Appropriate precautions, return to isolation afterwards, but they were allowed to vote. There is no right more fundamental in a democracy than the right to vote. It is even more fundamental than freedom of speech, which has its limitations, but you should be able to have a say.
Yes.
7 elections prior to that one, national turnout averaged over 60%. The elections in the 70s, 71, 76, 81 averaged over 70%. The first one that I mentioned was even over 80. But for 7 straight elections, we averaged over 60%.
This one.
The turnout on January 19, 2022 was 43%.
Depressed, yeah.
Part of the reason, a big part of the reason,
40 points.
43%. That was the national average.
National average.
National average.
And
St.
in some
James,
you went beneath 40.
yes, some went as low as 36%.
Really?
36%. There were thousands of Barbadians in isolation. No provision was made by our Prime Minister for them to vote. And she absolutely had the authority to do it under the Emergency Powers Act. She absolutely had the authority. No provision was made. At the time, the week before the election, numbers had shot up almost 2,000 in isolation over what they were at the time the election was called. And by the week after the election, the numbers had gone up even more. So persons were in isolation. I remember at the time you're in isolation and you leave home, you can be fined.
That's right.
So there was legal
Implications.
for
Legal
leaving home
sanction.
to vote
Yes.
at a time when calling a national election no right more secret than being able to vote
Yes.
was. So she did it because she could. She did it because she has scant regard for the rights of voters in this country. And as the human guardian of our democracy, I personally think that is unpardonable. Provision should have been made for persons to be able to vote. Also, you would have had many persons, thousands recovering from COVID. Let's not forget how debilitating COVID was. You also would have had people scared about congregating in around the election centers or getting in line to vote. I remember that election was called 16 months before it was constitutionally due.
Yes.
And there's also a provision for 3 additional months. So you certainly could have taken the time to plan it properly to ensure that persons have the right to be able to vote. But it was called at a time because it was seen as politically advantageous. And it was. And it was done because I could do it and I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Might is right.
Might is right. Might is right. Survival of the fittest. This is going to be the first election since that COVID election. We call it a COVID election. This is going to be the first one. And it is absolutely important that Barbadians, because I see all Barbadians as being involved in this election, and those who are actively involved, St. James North, to try to create a check on this government's power and this government's propensity to abuse power. And that's why it is so important to elect this lady to my right, Miss Felicia Dujon, next week. Let us all turn out to help Felicia in this party. We're doing a mass canvas. Well, we're doing a meeting tomorrow at Trent's, and then we meet in our favorite place. We have 2 offices, but we're going to meet at Trent's on Saturday morning. I think the Lieutenant Hartley Reid, Lieutenant Hartley Reid says 9 o'clock on Saturday morning.
Yes.
There's a question for me on the board. Yes, let's hear it.
From Keith Padmore to Mr. Thorne, would you be willing to have a think tank of ideas on the best ways to become food secure?
Of course.
Oh yes,
Of
oh
course.
yes, indeed. Keith Padmore,
Yes, please.
and when does he want to do it?
You
Because
can
I'll
call
tell
us.
you why I say yes. One of the ideas we had for this election was to go into the local communities, and rather than setting up these large platforms, we do something like a town hall setting. We put chairs in a circle. I discussed this with you,
You
Felicia.
did.
Put chairs in a circle and just discuss freely and equally with the residents. And we had a beautiful meeting in the WIM.
Yes.
Some fool on Facebook criticized it and said, oh, they didn't even have a podium. Look, when the podium arrived, I said, no, we don't want a podium.
No.
We are going at the level of the people.
Yeah.
Just a microphone, no podium.
Yeah.
And we related so beautifully
We did.
to the people in the WIM. It was a
Because
beautiful
because
meeting.
we are all equal.
Because we're all equals. We just happen to want to serve, not to be celebrities. And Keith, yes, that's something we would love to do, to have a convention on, where is it again? Yes, that's Keith
Yes.
Badmore.
Yes.
Willing to have a
Think tank.
Think tank. Of course.
Of course. And look, think tank doesn't mean that you go into some prestigious hotel
No,
in some
no.
air-conditioned room. Take it to the people.
I'll fly out.
Take it
to
to the people. And if the people who are building the road on the East Coast had established a think tank with local knowledge down there,
Yeah.
that road may have been finished by now. What Barbadians don't know, they're struggling to finish that road. And every time they try to fix it, it is crumbling. It's falling apart. And the people who live down there complaining there is no consultation with them.
With
Keith
them.
Padmore, there is no think tank established with road building exercise. So we accept the proposal. Producer, where are we? We're going to wrap up now?
No, sorry. Keep going.
Keep going. Who was the last speaker you were talking about?
Yeah.
The abuse of
The
power.
power.
They abuse the power that they have by making a shift our meeting to tomorrow.
Yes. And I
Right.
want to. I really would.
Today.
Yes.
It was
It's
supposed to
but
be
this
today.
evening.
So we're going to do it tomorrow.
Yes.
Again, and we have to demonstrate this to Barbadians. This government on a daily basis abuses its power. We just happen to know because we have an opposition in the parliament. And that's why it is important that Ms. Felicia Dujon joins in parliament. As I say, this is not a general election. This is a by-election in which we have a chance to strengthen the opposition so that there will be checks on this government's power and this government's propensity, demonstrated propensity to abuse that power. So that is what this election is much about, strengthening the opposition. And of course, apart from strengthening the opposition, having a meaningful parliamentary representative in St. James North, because if you go for the Barbados Labour Party representative, nothing changes. Nothing changes. The business of the government will continue. The abuses of power will continue. He will feel no need to do more than what Mr. Hinkson did, and Mr. Hinkson did nothing. So equally, he will do nothing because he has been planted in Barbados with ministerial power, with a senatorial appointment, and that is an abuse of power as well because you have given him advantage, you have enfranchised him, you've given him office to qualify him for representative office, and that's an abuse of power. And you have started at that disadvantage, except that you're the far superior candidate. You are the far better candidate, and Barbadians know this.
Yes.
It is demonstrated. Yeah. So
you get a sense that they're scared.
they are scared.
They're scared.
They are scared.
Because
Very
for
scared.
them, this seat should be more comfortable.
Precisely.
But they're scared because of the feedback. They're scared because of what is happening. They have represented the constituency for almost 35 years. In fact, 34 years,
34.
3 months, and 3 days to be precise. And all of that time, 34 years, 3 months, and 3 days,
How
they
many
have been
hours?
in government for 21 of those years, including the last 7.
21
of those 34 plus
Including the
years,
last 7.
including the last 7. And now all of a sudden, they realize roads need fixing.
Precisely.
They realize we need lighting.
Yes.
They realize there's some areas that need debushing.
Mhm. And that
You've
we
been
need a
in
cooperative.
government for 21 of the 34 years, including the last 7 consecutive that you have represented the constituency.
Mhm.
What? Because something, they may argue that, oh, if we were in opposition, that the government of the day wouldn't do anything in the constituency. But no, you've been in government for 21 of the 34 years. I know for the Minister of Transport, it works today. The Chinese give us 430 lights, so tell them that Chad Blackman and the BLP give you lights. What happened to
Blackman will make no difference. The election of Blackman
So
makes
Felicia
difference
has
in
them
this
running
constituency.
scared, so
Yeah.
they're making all these promises now, and all of a sudden appearing that they're interested in the issues of the constituents of St. James North. St. James North, they have had ample opportunity. They have the wheel. They could have done all that they're promising to do now. They could have done before.
Yes.
Nothing stopped them from doing it.
Precisely.
They will promise you the world.
Yes.
Well, what I have to say on this matter, I will not be deterred. These are my people, and I have dedicated and sacrificed my commitment to them, so they can come with all the lights. And by the way, I need to know when those lights will be put up, because I'll be in the constituency to make sure that it's done perhaps before Wednesday. I want to ensure that the constituents of St. James North is no longer taken advantage of. And I want to reassure them that regardless of what happens, I will stay steadfast with them, and I will stay resilient, because all of what has been happening is about intimidations, is about the attack. And my apologies, it was out of not of any of our doing that we couldn't have had our meeting this evening, but that is all part of the intimidation tactics that has been used against me. I spoke some Creole, now they align in Creole, St. Lucian Creole with Obia. All of these things, very dangerous stereotypes. And I think what the people of St. James North need to recognize is that the kind of representation that you want for your community, for your constituency. And you have a choice on that day to look at very clearly the 2 persons or 3 or 4 persons that is running, and make a decision. What kind of leadership do I want in my constituency to guide not only myself, but my children, the young persons, the grandparents, who is in one of those individuals that will represent your best interests. And as you've seen, I will keep the fire to their feet. That's what I'm here for. They don't intimidate me in any way. I will be there, as I said before. It doesn't change anything. I will continue to walk and do everything that I am required to do, because service is a duty for me, and I take from that position. I'm not a utilitarian. My actions are not based upon consequences. I am not being paid to do this in any way. I am doing it out of a sense of duty, because I believe that if at any point in my life that you had to help me, you would have done that the same way that you helped and nurtured me in that constituency when I first came to Barbados.
Thank you very much. The election of Miss Felicia Dujon will make a difference in the politics of Barbados. It will make a difference in terms of our democratic traditions. It will make a difference in terms of justice and public justice. We've had a wonderful panel tonight. Quincy, do you want to make a final intervention? We're looking forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Yes, please.
Yes, I think a lot of we're looking forward to that.
Excellent. And this is our man, Christchurch. You've been doing some wonderful work up there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
With the young people particularly.
Yeah, especially Christchurch boys and girls, schools that have been given making sure that they're taken care of.
So I'll give us some final words. Felicia's
campaign. Today marks a remarkable step in our history of the Democratic Labour Party. And we need to support Felicia Dujon in this by-election, not just for the democracy of representation in terms of just winning the vote, but to show to the larger part of Barbados that the Democratic Labour Party is on its way back, and it's showing that we are going to definitely force and go ahead and create the policies and plans that are necessary. We don't need the big plan to make the issues that are dealt with. We just need to deal with them one step at a time, one by one. Felicia Dujon, we do support you. The Democratic Party loves you, and we thank you so much for giving your heart and your time, and we will back you from today, even after the 21st. I want that we continue doing these national meetings. People are asking that the national meetings continue right after the 21st, and go into all communities, getting to know the candidates, and for us to show that we are united once more again.
I saw, coming to you shortly, Damien, I saw an ad for the Barbados Labour Party today, and it stole one of our slogans, David. It's right, community connection.
Yeah.
Amazing. Damien, we're looking forward to seeing you this weekend. Can you join us on the
I believe I can.
excellent? Well, talk to the people of St. James North.
St. James North, I want to tell you something about Felicia Dujon.
Yes.
I met her years. I'm not speaking to your age or anything, Felicia. Met her years ago, right? And in our conversations, I knew that this was a different caliber of person, a person who cares, a person who speaks power to truth, a person when she says she's going to do something for you, she's going to do it for you. And she's a woman of her word. There could be no better candidate, no better choice, no better individual to represent the people in regards to what they need to get through in life. So you should cast your vote for her. Cast your vote, come out in your numbers. We need a strong opposition. We need a strong opposition. We need to get democracy back on track.
Thanks very much, Damien. I know she cares. I saw it demonstrated yesterday, Tuesday, when we did the opening of the office, Tuesday. And Pastor Jordan, and I don't want you to comment this Felicia Dujon. He raised his hand on Felicia and prayed and so on. And did it on me, and we go back and we sit next to each other. And I look around, there's this woman crying. And I said, she really cares. You know, tears are often an expression of how deeply you care for something and someone. And those were good tears.
You too.
I said, I looked around her. She's
I looked at you and you cried too.
No, I was not. It's okay. Something like it. I deserve to go with it. That's the official version. But this, as I've said before, this is quite an experience for us. The experience of contacting with the people of St. James North, the exchanges between Felicia and the people of St. James North are so genuine.
And the children.
And the children.
Yeah.
And the senior ladies are treating her like their daughter.
Yeah.
And the old men are coming and hugging. And I understand one cried yesterday as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, you know, it's just the human experience that they're having. And I think that's what has really touched the entire process. I've seen children, now we have toys and ice cream and everything else because children come to their constituency office after school. They come looking for me, and I tell them this is our space, this is our home. We have elders that something is happening in St. James North, and it's remarkable. The Barbadian spirit has returned, and I'm glad that this is what is happening. We're seeing, I have a next door neighbor that we have to do breakfast very soon. We're going to be doing, so the constituency office is not an office. It's like a family home. We were cooking, people coming through, people talking. So everything, it's a wonderful experience. And I just also want to wish not only the constituency of St. James North, but the entire Barbadian populace happy International Day of the Family, which is very important. And this is what we need to do. We need to strengthen our families in Barbados, strengthen our families in St. James North, especially our single parent family that have been advocating on their behalf so that the government could see the need to provide a small allowance or some kind of allowance to help sustain that family unit. We're seeing that $300. Yes, we really don't want to talk too much about it, but I think there's so much more that can be done for the families in that particular constituency.
Thank you. And we want to thank the anonymous donor of the office, the house in Mount Standfast. We really want to thank him. We want to thank the St. Michael Central ladies who are there
Yes.
from morning. I think they're still there now.
There, we
They're
work
doing the
very
envelopes and they're cooking
everything.
and they gave us some Saturday food. Saturday food is true food.
Yeah.
Yam and so on.
Yes.
We had that today.
We have it every day.
We want to thank the ladies of the Northwest,
Yes,
Michael
the
Northwest,
Northwest.
and their
And Margot.
Southeast.
Yes.
The Southeast, St. Michael Southeast ladies as well. And that place has become busy. It's become a pleasant place. Elvis, you have to come by soon.
I close the office early.
Yeah, and we need to thank the fisher folks and the farmers that have contributed to our.
Oh, they have?
Yes, to our.
And you got some lamb yesterday.
Yes, we
I
got
understand.
lamb. So thank you. And the mangoes. Thank you
Yes,
very much.
yes,
We
yes.
much appreciate. And this is what, with everything else that is happening from the opposition, I mean, the opposing opponents, all that negativity that is coming out, the people, the love, the kindness, the warmth, the
Yes.
Barbadian integrity
Yes,
and
yes.
pride that we feel. It's always a joy. It's always a joy. And that's what we will continue to build upon,
Thank you. And let
that
us,
relationship.
let us also thank, I think I can call Cheryl's name, Cheryl
Yes.
Powlett,
Yes.
who is in Rockdando.
Rockdando.
And
Yes.
she has donated a part of her residence
Yes.
as well.
As an office.
Beautifully decorated place.
Yes.
And so we have, the campaign began with them on social media after and say, oh, they don't have a place. We don't have two.
Mhm.
And we did not pay 1 cent for them.
Mhm.
It's
love.
come from the love and
And how-
generosity shown towards this young lady,
The Barbadian spirit.
the Barbadian spirit. And we thank the anonymous donor who's given us the Mount Standfast location, and Miss Cheryl Powlett, who has given us, she's not afraid. She's not afraid of the government. So she knows that that is the reason I call her name.
Thank
Too
you.
many people in Barbados are afraid. And we want to turn back this tide of fear. And we can only turn back this tide of fear that Barbadians feel towards this government if we elect this young lady called Miss Felicia Dujon to strengthen the opposition, and not only to strengthen the opposition, but to strengthen democratic traditions in Barbados,
Yes.
because
Correct.
we must not and cannot go into 2026 with a parliament that is so skewed in favor
Mhm.
of one side, and a side that has a propensity to abuse power. I had a whole list of abuses of power written on this. It is now 9:20. We didn't have a chance. This is the last new vibes before the election.
Yes.
We're going to see you after the election.
Mhm.
Let it be God's will, and I hope it is God's will that
Yes.
we return to the next program with you as the duly elected representative.
With
Mr.
God's
Jim.
grace and the
No.
people's grace.
Say it aloud, please.
With God's grace and the people's grace and confidence.
Thank you very much. And
Good
good
night.
night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night.
We voting for Felicia, yes, we voting for Felicia. We voting for Felicia, yes, we voting for Felicia. Cause Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. And honest voice for the people, that is what we want. Cost of living got we troubled and all the violence. A woman of integrity, good character and morality. The big man is the problem, but Dujon is the big solution. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. But for a brighter tomorrow, let me make it clear. It is morals over money any day of the year. A competent visionary with mission-driven quality. Forget the old talk around, Dujon bring it through representation. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon. Felicia, she is the one. Yes, we going with Dujon.
That's made it. Oh.
That's my thing.